So, dear friends, when we hear about this Indriya Samvara, or the restraint of the senses, it's generally associated with preventing unwholesome reactions to the things that are seen, heard, touched, tasted, or smelled. And it's interesting that the meditation, as I was trying to indicate for tonight, of just simply trying to tune in and discover and to be able to notice as quickly as possible, moment by moment, what's really going on when there's some type of a contact that an object is known through touching the sense bases. When we're engaged in that exercise of trying to tune in to be really alert and awake and interested in what's actually going on for us with that sense contact, we're not generally in so much danger of being carried away with reacting to the different objects. It could happen that one may feel a pain in the body and be struck with anxiety or sorrow or something about that pain, and then the mind could throw up some kind of a story about that. Even during the time of this meditation, it's possible that you might have had a little story come up during the meditation. Something came to mind, and for whatever number of seconds or longer than a few seconds, the mind was developing a recollection of something that's outside of the room. And then it could be that if one looks retrospectively, that there was some sensation that triggered the story to arise in the mind. It's like a kind of like a free association. For myself, one of the members of our community now is not present in the room, and I had I experienced the absence of that person. I guess that was a visual and a mental thing. And then, please don't laugh at me, my mind immediately went to the question about where is my smartphone, which also is not present in the room. And so there was a couple of seconds then before I was able to pull it back in and come back doing the project for this that I've assigned us for this particular sit-in meditation, to try to direct awareness towards the contact, especially with the 5 physical senses and mental things that are coming up directly because of that. But in general, the Indriya Samvara is most strongest when a person is encountering something with potentially a strong emotional strength or salience, such that there could be a powerful reaction. And then if the person is able to keep the mind stable, so that the mind and the feelings are that the whole person is like what they call Indra's pillar, if you take a 18-foot long column of stone and bury it so that it's 9 feet under the ground and 9 feet standing above the ground, then any kind of wind or rain or storm or cold or anything that happens doesn't cause that pillar to tremble. It stays absolutely still like that. And just the same way, it's said that a person who has this restraint of the sense faculties, or the indriya samvara, is a person who will not be shaken up by the things that would cause an ordinary person to be shaken up. Nevertheless, it seems to me that a particular practice in meditation of making the mind be alert and tuned in and capable of noticing contact that's happening at the physical senses as a contact, and noticing, say, a visible object as a visible object, which is able to be known by way of the visual sense faculty. That's a way that everything that we experience can be framed in a different way, and in a way that is leading us more in the direction of the fundamental Dhamma insight, and not leading us the opposite direction, away from picking up some story that is triggering some emotional reaction to what is being experienced. I would like to take a few minutes to fill you in on a little bit what the Buddha said about this indriya samvara. We are taking the theme of this meditation retreat about stream entry and practicing for stream entry. There are several different versions of conditionality, or what's called the proximate cause. The Pali word is upanisa. These are different sets of teaching that this leads to this, and this leads to this, and this leads to this. That's part of the training program, which leads us up to stream entry and finally to our complete liberation. And so this sense restraint is part of that sequence. How does it fit into the sequence that we've been talking about so far? Well, we somehow were so blessed and lucky that we came across the tradition of our Buddha, the Gautama Buddha, the Samma Sambuddha, the one who's realized for himself and was able to express the teachings in the way that he was able to convey his awakening, that others would be able to pick it up. And we had a good blessing to connect with upright and perhaps realized inspiring spiritual examples where it's beneficial to us to associate with them and listen to them and follow their example, ask questions and seek for answers from people like that who are truly admirable, who have come to understand this Dhamma, this teaching, and who are able to explain it correctly. That's that's a starting point. And then we show up and we listen, and we take on these teachings, and we ponder and reflect on them. We learn the words of the teaching, and then we test out those words and concepts against our own direct experience, practicing with mindfulness and clear awareness to test out and find out whether, with our own direct experience, whether it's true or not, what these teachings say or what these teachings are predicting, both about the nature of things in this world, and also about the way of practice that leads to gradually reducing the intensity or the depth of our suffering, so that dukkha can be ameliorated to some extent, and then we can see eventually that actually it's not necessary to stay with this conditioned world, which is inevitably colored by dukkha in so many different ways. Then, in a certain kind of way, it seems like this Indriya samvara is kind of like at a turning point in this practice. I read a lot of different suttas about this in the past week or so, while I was trying to freshen up and see to situate my understanding of how this fits in the Buddhist teachings. And it seemed to me that it would be like somebody who realizes that it's really serious about old age, sickness, and death, sorrow, lamentation, pain, grief, and despair, the inherent suffering of our condition of humans here in this world, the depths of how profoundly it's possible for humans to go in a totally wrong direction, where they're really exacerbating and taking themselves into a world of pain, and also then how it's possible to go the other direction, and seeing these examples, these possibilities, and so it's like then one comes to be ready to say, okay, I would like to do this training. I have enough faith, I've seen enough, I've understood enough to be able to really do this training. And just about here, this Sangvara comes in as a kind of like a foundation. Perhaps, and then based on Samvara, it said that a person is able to really master becoming skillful with their acts of the body, speech, and mind. So the real accomplishment in ethics is coming after developing this Samvara, not beforehand. It may be that beforehand people will have undertaken the precepts, and they may, it's a precursor, something that comes before the Samvara, is this experience. We talked about this in the past few days, experiencing what in Pali is called hiri otapa, which is called, could be moral shame or moral fear, being ashamed to do something which is hurtful or harmful, and fearful of the results not really not wanting to do anything, not even the smallest thing, that's harmful to oneself or harmful to another. And then, based on that, then the Buddha is saying, okay, you want to avoid those shameful things. Here's how to do it. Here's how to become skillful so you will be able to avoid some kind of unskillful reaction or unskillful behavior that later would cause you some painful consequence, or later would cause you to feel ashamed of yourself. And the way is with this specific technique of samvara. Now there's two specific descriptions or definitions that I could offer. These are like standard descriptions that are seen in a lot of places. One is seeing an agreeable sight with the eye. They don't desire it or relish it, and they don't give rise to greed. The mind and body are steady internally, well settled and well freed. And if they see a disagreeable sight, they're not dismayed. Their mind isn't hardened, dejected, or full of ill will. Instead, their mind and body are steady internally, well settled, and well freed. So, this is about the response in terms of the arising of the different kinds of motivations, or the emotions that will be leading one in the direction of taking some kind of action. Could be based on aversion or greed, or could be based on greed or desire or craving. And actions based on that have got their karmic results. And so this is, it's taking that aspect to it. Then there's a second description, which is seeing a sight with the eyes. They don't get caught up in the features and details. If the faculty of sight is left unrestrained, then bad unskillful qualities of covetousness and displeasure, otherwise greed and dislike, or longing and grief, could become overwhelming. And so for this reason they practice restraint, protecting the faculty of sight, achieving its restraint. And then each one of these is similarly for each one of the 5 physical senses, and also for the mind. So in that case, not getting caught up in the features and the details has to do with the way that perception arises, and there's a kind of a synergy where the perception becomes focused on those details which are either lovable or hateable in the object, and then the mind can launch into in a way, not seeing the whole picture, not giving the wise attention, which is the thorough attention which fully sees the whole picture, or not giving the balanced or proper attention that looks deeply into the nature of things, but instead this kind of unwise attention then is creating the situation for failure of the restraint of the senses, where there's some detail which is like on the surface of the object, and the mind gets caught there and is reacting to something that's on the surface that's not really revealing like the true nature of that object or that situation. And it's very practical, and it does have to do with the practice within meditation, but also very much with the practice throughout the daily life. Here I came across another very sweet story. This is about the Buddha's disciple, his cousin Nanda. Nanda was a monk. He was a young royal family prince who enjoyed pleasurable things and loved beautiful women. He was someone who just had this pleasure orientation, and he himself was very beautiful, and he loved being beautiful and handsome and a wonderful young man and like that. And so then when he became a monk, he had to learn how to restrain his pleasure-seeking tendencies. And he said that if I have to look to the east, I wholeheartedly concentrate before looking, thinking. When I look to the east, bad, unskillful qualities of covetousness and displeasure will not overwhelm me. And in this way, I'm aware of that situation. Likewise, looking in all of the directions. Each direction he looks, before looking, he makes that resolution, seeing there's the danger that these bad, unskillful qualities, covetousness and displeasure, could arise, but I'm determined that they will not overcome me when I'm looking to the east. And so that's where like a protection. I'll give one more metaphor, and then I like to open up to questions. And I think I'm going to ask you to think about in your life, in your practice, what's the most effective method for you of blocking and preventing the longing and grief from arising based on the things that you encounter. The other metaphor I'm going to give you is about the 6 animals. This is it's given in the context of mindfulness, but that mindfulness is a kind of a way of restraint. So if you catch a snake, a crocodile, a bird, a dog, a hyena, and a monkey, and you tie each one with a strong rope, and you tie them all together to each other, then those 6 animals, each one has got a different domain, a different habitat. Could somebody fix my battery because I'm running out of juice. It doesn't seem to be turned on. Is it plugged in? Plugged in over there? Okay, thank you. The animals each pull in their own direction. The snake says, I'll go in an anthill. The crocodile says, I'll go in the water. The bird says, let me go up in the air. The dog says, I'll go to the village. The hyena says, I'll go to a charnel ground. And the monkey says, I'm going to the forest. And they're all pulling in all different directions until they become exhausted. And then what happens is whatever one is the strongest determines which direction they go to. So this is a person who is carried away with their emotions. And whatever emotion happens to be on top at a particular moment that becomes dominating, it just pulls them off in that direction. And then the counterexample is that they could try taking the same 6 animals and tie them to a strong stake, which is well driven into the ground, like that Indra's pillar that I was talking about before. And so then the animals all run around until they become exhausted, and then they stop and stay still right there by that stake in the middle. So that stake is the mindfulness. And therefore the senses the eyes are going towards beautiful things, and the ears are going towards beautiful sounds, and the nose to just a nice smell, and so on like that. The intellect goes towards pleasing ideas. So if we don't have that hiri otapa, that conscience, if we're not ashamed, then we won't restrain ourselves. So, and like this could happen. You could have somebody who's a soldier or a politician or some kind of a law enforcement or something, and it could be that they're not ashamed of killing. And so if they're not ashamed of killing, they won't refrain themselves from killing. They'll go ahead and they'll kill when it suits them to do so. If someone believes that I love music, I love jazz, and there's nothing wrong with jazz. Jazz is good. I like jazz. So they're not going to restrain themselves from listening to jazz if they don't have any shame about it. And so then there are some things, like going to shows and entertainments, for example, and even for the monastic, refraining from sexual activity, that by the ordinary light of the world, those are not considered as shameful things. It's only that in the context of what we're trying to accomplish in meditation and wisdom, that we see the danger or the risk in those activities undermining our possibility of accomplishment in meditation and wisdom, that then, we see the danger. And then if we say that, like for us, those activities are dangerous, say, when I was young, I liked music, and I could spend an entire lifetime as a aficionado of music, earning money and spending the money, going to great concerts of great music, and doing a lot of comparisons to decide which performance, which pieces of music are greater than others, and which performances of music are greater than others, or learning to play music and dedicated my life to music. I could do that, and then I could I might not find a way to overcome my negative faults of character which cause me to suffer, right? I might not have the priority or take the time for the inner purification, the inner development, which is the real base. And so then it could be that, this hiri otapa, when we're more subtle, it's because we've taken certain choices in life and we've decided some things are a waste of time. And I see the danger in frittering away my life on things which are a waste of time. And I feel the urgency to really dedicate my life to that which is related to the goal, and would be ashamed otherwise. And when I've gotten that, that's when I think I would be ready to take on this instruction about actually practicing in a serious way about this restraint of the senses, to really be very cautious about getting lost in the features and details of objects, that I would be extremely cautious about the reaction, the like and dislike, the reactions to, oh, something happened. Somebody looked at me in a certain way, or why are they frowning at me? And then, or why are they smiling at me? And then I start to get into, emotional whatever, because somebody frowned or somebody smiled, or something happened, or something is not the way it should be, or oh, something is the way it should be, and oh, I feel so elated and so delighted and so happy because of some superficial thing. That's not. That's all those things are cautions. We should, according to this teaching, we're looking for that steadiness and that stability. Have we been able to find within ourselves that inner stability that truly is can become unshakable? And if we can, how do we do that? So that's one, just I could say an idea about how this restraint of the senses is a very challenging, powerful teaching, not even really necessarily a beginner's teaching, but it's a teaching for somebody who's come partway down this path, who's developed a certain amount of faith, who's seen the possibilities of the deep and true happiness that can be realized through this practice, and who wants to make that commitment and wants to go all the way, and then they would be willing to undertake a project of restraining indriya samvara, restraining the sense faculties, in that way. So I'd like to open for conversation, and I'd be happy to hear whatever questions or comments you may have about what works for you. I see that somebody's getting a background noise. Why? I just clicked a button to try to make the sound a little better. So, questions and comments? I see that the Aranya Bodhi Hermitage is present. Would anybody over there like to add a comment?
Okay. Didn't say anything, but yeah, something we were talking about here a couple days ago, in terms of sense restraint, is something I've done for myself. If I sort of get lost in ideas about things that I would like for the future, fantasies, short term or long term. One thing that I do is I sort of imagine that happening, and then I ask myself, and then what? Um, and then maybe the mind comes up with something else. And then again, I ask myself, and then what? And sort of play out like this whole long fantasy, but just sort of realizing there's always an and then what? There's always another step that it needs to be fulfilled. It needs to be fed in some way. There's never like an end to the and then what until you come to the time of passing away, and then who knows what happens after that. I can't necessarily come up with an answer to the and then what after that, but you can play the whole thing out that far, and I've found that sort of a clarifying exercise for myself when I do that with regards to thinking that something is going to bring me happiness of some kind, that question can kind of diffuse it. So it's something I've done for myself sometimes and found helpful.
How do you balance restraint of the senses with kindness about the way the mind just sometimes wants to go in various directions?
Hmm. Ah. I guess just recognizing that there's nothing especially terrible about my mind wanting to go in various directions. I think everybody's does. Um, and in a way, then I can, when I see myself doing that, that actually helps me be more compassionate to other people too. Because I don't get on my high horse like, oh, I'm a monastic. I'm done with sensual desire, because I'm not. Um, and just sort of understanding like, uh, this is how people are, this is how life is. Um, and it's actually unpleasant. You can see playing that and then what thing out. You can actually see the unpleasantness in all of these sense desires. And then there can be sort of a degree of compassion for like whatever it is internally that it feels unfulfilled, that wants that, that's not complete. Um, there's a way of being compassionate to that. Um,
Thank you.
there was a hand from Maureen briefly.
Oh, okay. Thank you. Maureen. Why am I not seeing the hands?
Looks like the hand has gone down and Maureen has departed, but there was a hand briefly.
Mm. Well, there's a question that came on the chat. Appreciating that perspective, and then what? Having just gone through a period of grief, something to keep in mind. Yes, actually, that's a wonderful example. There's a way in which the Buddha puts sorrow, lamentation, pain, grief, and despair on the side of dukkha, which of course is true, and it can seem to be in a harsh or a cruel way, saying there's something like it's unskillful if a person experiences this strong grief at a time of loss, whether it's be a family member or a loved one, or even some other major kind of loss. And in this case, it seems that there is something that's very, can be very necessary about that grief process, especially in a case where there's something incomplete and unresolved. So experiencing that kind of pain is part of the motivation for the spiritual urgency to both learn how to practice a patient bearing up to a circumstance which is very difficult. That's got that self-compassion, just to say, okay, it's painful right now. It's not going to last forever. And just to allow it to resolve. And then even beyond that, it can happen that we see that there's something that we're holding on to, that we're not yet ready to let go of. And so it's through that period of time until we become prepared and ready to say, let that person go, or to let that go, whatever's causing the grief. And then when we're ready and we're able to let go, then that grieving period can be over. In other words, to actually for all of the emotional responses that happen, because we're on this path, doesn't mean that we become emotionally numb or emotionally tuned out, but simply that we have got a way of having some kind of a larger container to hold the intensity of those emotional responses within something which is larger and more stable. So rather than the stability of the indra's pillar, which is kind of like a center point, which is powerful and stable and unmovable, there's another kind of stability, which is sort of like a big sky kind of stability, that taking a very wide, universal kind of a view of things, and knowing, say, that you know, we have the desire to live, and all beings have the desire to live. We suffer because of our desire to live, and all beings everywhere suffer because of their desire to live and all the consequences of that. And so taking a great wide perspective is a way of stepping out. But I really am interested to know, think of the situation where something happens to you, and there's, it's like a fork in the road. You can pick it up in a way that is feeding into greed and hatred. You can pick it up in a way that's feeding into the tendency for liking and disliking and judgments of that type. Or you can pick it up in a different way, which is feeding into peace, letting go, and stability. So what is it for you that makes the difference in terms of how you pick up those experiences that may come up and surprise you from time to time? And if you're very happy with what we've had so far, we can close this talk today by giving respect to the Triple Gem. Araham Samma Sambuddho Bhagava Buddham Bhagavantam Abhivadimi. Sivakato Bhagavata Dhammo Dhammam Namasami. Supatipando Bhagavato Savaka Sangho Sangham Namami. Sabbe Buddha Balapata Pachakanam Jayam Balam Avahantanam Chitejena Lokam Bandhami Sa